You've been making your credit card payment every single month without fail. You feel responsible. You feel like you are doing the right thing, but your balance barely moves. Sometimes it feels like it actually gets bigger. There is a reason for that, and it is going to change how you see debt forever. Let me paint you a picture. You have a credit card with a $2,000 balance. The minimum payment due is $50. You pay it every month without missing a single one. You feel like a responsible person. But here's the thing. You are barely making a dent. That $50 payment you are so proud of is not going toward your balance the way you think. Most of it is being eaten up by something called interest. And what is left over after interest is paid is almost nothing. Your actual debt is barely shrinking at all. Here is how interest works on a credit card. Every month the bank looks at your remaining balance and charges you a percentage of it. That percentage is your interest rate. The average credit card interest rate right now is somewhere around 20% per year. That breaks down monthly to about 1.6%. So on that $2,000 balance, 1.6% monthly interest means the bank charges you around $32 just to let you carry that balance for another month. Out of your $50 payment, $32 goes to the bank. Only $18 goes toward your actual debt. $18. That is what you actually paid down on your debt after handing over $50. Your balance went from $2,000 down to $1,982. You paid $50 and your debt dropped by $18. Does that feel right to you? Because it should feel wrong. And it gets worse. Next month the bank calculates interest again, but now your balance is $1,982. The interest charge is slightly lower, but not by much. You pay another $50, and again most of it disappears into interest. You chip away another tiny amount. This cycle keeps going month after month. Small payment, big interest charge, tiny reduction in the actual balance. And the scary part is the credit card company designed it this way on purpose. The minimum payment system was not created to help you get out of debt. It was created to keep you in it. Think about that for a second. The people who set your minimum payment amount are the same people who profit from your interest charges. Every month you stay in debt, they make money. So do you really think they are going to set a minimum that helps you pay it off quickly? No chance. Back in the early days of credit cards, minimum payments used to be much higher. Banks required customers to pay off a large chunk of the balance each month. Customers paid their debt faster. The banks made less money in interest. So quietly over the years, they started lowering the minimums. And nobody really noticed. Today, some credit card minimums are as low as 1% of your balance, or even a flat fee like $25. The lower the minimum, the longer it takes you to pay off your debt and the more interest you pay over time. The bank wins every single time. You keep losing. Let me give you a real number to hold on to. If you have a $2,000 balance at 20% interest and you only ever pay the minimum each month, it will take you over 11 years to pay it off. 11 years for $2,000. That is not a typo. That is real. And over those 11 years, how much total interest will you have paid? Somewhere around $1,800. You borrowed $2,000 and ended up paying nearly $4,000 in total. The bank doubled their money off of you, all because you stuck to the minimum payment every single month. Now imagine you have not just one card, but 2 or 3. Maybe you have $5,000 across different cards. Each one with its own interest rate, its own minimum payment, its own slow drain on your money every month. The math compounds and the hole gets deeper faster than you can see. There is also something called the minimum payment trap that financial experts talk about. As your balance goes down, your minimum payment also goes down. So if you started at $50 minimum and paid a little extra, your balance drops, and suddenly your new minimum is $45. The bank adjusts it lower. If you keep only paying whatever the new minimum is, you slow down your payoff even further. People think they are making progress, but they are running in place. The bank keeps resetting the target, and you keep chasing it without realizing you are being led in circles. This is the trap closing around you. Here is something most people never even look at on their credit card statement. In the United States, banks are actually required by law to print a warning right on your bill. It shows you exactly how long it will take to pay off your balance if you only pay the minimum. Most people ignore it completely. That little box on your statement might say something like, if you make only the minimum payment, you will pay off this balance in 14 years and pay this much in interest. It is right there in black and white. But because the number feels so far away, people just look at the minimum and pay that. The human brain is wired to deal with what feels urgent right now. A large payment hurts immediately. A minimum payment feels manageable. So even when people know intellectually that the minimum is a trap, they still choose the smaller number because it feels better today. The credit card company knows this about you. They count on it. Let us talk about what interest actually is in simple terms. When you carry a balance on your credit card, you are essentially renting that money from the bank. Every day you hold on to it, you owe a little bit more. It is not a one-time fee, it is a daily meter running in the background. Most credit cards calculate interest daily, not monthly. So they take your annual rate, divide it by 365, and apply that tiny daily rate to your balance every single day. By the time the month ends, all those daily charges have added up to your monthly interest charge. The meter never stops running. This daily compounding is what makes credit card debt so dangerous compared to other types of debt. With a mortgage or a student loan, the structure is usually more predictable, but with a credit card, if you keep using it and only paying the minimum, the interest keeps piling up on top of interest. It multiplies itself. There is a term called the debt snowball, and while it is usually talked about as a payoff strategy, it also works in reverse. When you only pay the minimum, your debt does not just sit still, it grows. Interest charges build on interest charges. What started as $2,000 can quietly creep back up toward $2,500. This is what people mean when they say their balance never goes down even though they are always paying. They are not imagining it. If you are spending on the card at the same time as paying the minimum, the interest plus new charges can easily outpace what you are paying. The balance grows faster than you can pay it. So let us be honest about what the minimum payment actually is. It is not a payment plan. It is a subscription fee for staying in debt. You pay it, and you get to keep your account in good standing. You get to avoid a late fee, but you do not get freedom. You just get to stay in the game. And the credit card companies are very happy for you to stay in the game forever. They are not rooting against you. They do not want you to default. Defaulting is actually bad for them. What they want is for you to stay just solvent enough to keep paying interest month after month, decade after decade. That is their ideal customer. Now let us flip this around, because understanding the problem is only useful if it leads you somewhere better. The good news is that paying just a little more than the minimum every month makes a dramatic difference. Not double, not triple, just a little more. The math changes in your favor faster than you would expect. Remember that $2,000 balance and the $50 minimum payment. If you pay $100 a month instead of $50, the payoff timeline drops from over 11 years to under 2 years. 2 years instead of 11, and you save over $1,000 in interest just by doubling one payment. That is real money staying in your pocket. Even adding $25 extra a month makes a noticeable difference. That is one less takeout order, one less impulse buy. But applied to your debt, that $25 can shave years off your payoff timeline and save you hundreds in interest. Small changes to how you fight debt create enormous results over time. One of the most powerful things you can do is look at your statement right now and find that box that shows your payoff timeline. Read the numbers, let them land. Then look at what happens if you pay just a bit more. Most statements even show you a comparison. Use that information. It was put there for a reason. There is also a strategy called the avalanche method, where you focus extra payments on the card with the highest interest rate first. While you pay minimums on everything else, you throw everything extra at the most expensive debt. Once that is gone, you take that full payment and attack the next highest rate. This saves the most money over time. The other popular approach is the snowball method, where you pay off the smallest balance first, regardless of interest rate. This gives you quick wins. You see a balance hit zero faster. That feeling of progress keeps you motivated to keep going. Both methods work. The best one is whichever one you will actually stick to. But before you choose a payoff strategy, there is one move that can immediately change the math in your favor, and that is looking into a balance transfer. Some credit cards offer 0% interest for a promotional period like 12 or 18 months. Moving your balance there can pause the interest clock completely while you pay it down. A balance transfer is not magic, and it does not work for everyone. You usually need decent credit to qualify. There is often a transfer fee of around 3%, and if you do not pay it off before the promotional period ends, the interest rate jumps back up, sometimes even higher than before. But used carefully, it is a powerful tool. Another option some people explore is a personal loan to consolidate credit card debt. Personal loans often have lower interest rates than credit cards, so you take out a loan, pay off the cards, and now owe one fixed payment at a lower rate. The key is to not turn around and fill those credit cards back up again. That last part is worth saying again. People consolidate their debt and feel so relieved that the credit cards are at zero that they start spending on them again. Now they have the consolidation loan and new credit card debt. They made their situation worse. Consolidation only works if you change the habits that created the debt in the first place. Let us talk about something that does not get discussed enough, and that is the psychological weight of carrying debt. It is not just a financial problem. People who carry high credit card balances report higher stress levels, worse sleep, more anxiety, and a constant low-level feeling of being trapped. Debt lives in your head, not just your wallet. Every time you check your bank account and see that balance sitting there, it affects you. Every time you want to do something and you think about how much you owe, it changes your choices. Debt limits your freedom in ways that go beyond just the dollars. Clearing it is not just financial relief. It is genuinely life-changing. There is also the opportunity cost of credit card debt to consider. Every dollar you pay in interest is a dollar you could have invested. Put differently, if you are paying 20% interest on a credit card, you need to earn 20% on any investment just to break even. Almost nothing gives you that kind of guaranteed return on investment. Paying off high-interest debt is essentially the same as earning that same interest rate risk-free. If your card charges 20% interest and you pay it off, you just guaranteed yourself a 20% return. No stock market bet required, no risk. Just freedom from the drain that interest charges put on your money every single month. Some people wonder whether they should invest while paying off debt. The answer almost always depends on the interest rate. If your debt is at 20%, you should absolutely pay that off first, because no investment consistently beats that. But if your employer offers a retirement match that is free money and that changes the calculation a little, at its core though, the priority should always be to eliminate high-interest debt before trying to build wealth. You cannot out-invest a 20% drag on your money. Think of it like trying to fill a bucket with a big hole in the bottom. No matter how much you pour in, it keeps draining away through the interest. Let us also talk about the credit score side of this because it matters more than most people realize. Your credit utilization, which is how much of your available credit you are using, makes up a big chunk of your credit score. High balances, even if you are paying the minimum, hurt your score. And that has real consequences. A lower credit score means higher interest rates on future loans. So the debt you are carrying today could be costing you more money on a car loan or a mortgage years from now. The damage ripples forward. Getting your balances down does not just help you today, it sets up a better financial future for everything ahead. There is something else people miss, which is the difference between a statement balance and a current balance. If you pay your full statement balance every single month before the due date, you pay zero interest, none. The credit card is essentially a free loan for 30 days. But the moment you carry any balance forward, the interest game begins. So the ideal use of a credit card is to never carry a balance at all. Use it for the rewards, the fraud protection, and the convenience, but always pay the full amount when the statement comes. That way the credit card works for you instead of against you. But most people have already crossed that line and are deep in the balance. If you are already carrying a balance, here is a mindset shift that helps. Stop thinking of the minimum payment as a bill you are paying. Start thinking of it as a ransom the bank is collecting from you each month, because that is closer to what it actually is. You owe them for borrowing their money, and they are collecting their fee. When you reframe it that way, the motivation to pay more becomes stronger. You are not making an extra payment out of some abstract financial principle. You are fighting back. You are taking money away from the bank and keeping it for yourself. Every dollar above the minimum is a dollar you rescued from their pocket. Another thing that helps is automating a higher payment amount. Do not leave it up to willpower. Go into your account settings and set up an automatic payment for a fixed amount that is higher than the minimum. $30 more, $50 more, whatever you can manage. Automate it so you never have to decide in the moment. Willpower is unreliable. Life gets busy. Emergencies come up. When paying more requires a conscious decision every month, it is easy to skip it just this once, which turns into skipping it regularly. But when it is automated, it just happens. You never see the money, you never have to choose. The debt goes down without the mental battle. Let us also talk about what to do when you feel overwhelmed, because debt can reach a point where the numbers feel impossible. Maybe you have $10,000 or $20,000 on cards, and you cannot imagine paying it off. The key is to stop looking at the whole number and start looking at what you can control today. You cannot pay off $10,000 today, but you can pay $100 more than your minimum today. And you can do that next month and the month after. Progress does not have to be dramatic to be real. Small, consistent overpayments are how most people actually escape debt. Not big dramatic gestures, but steady, reliable effort. There is also a trick called the debt thermometer, where you draw or print out a simple visual showing your balance at the top and zero at the bottom. Every time you pay down a little bit, you color in the progress. Something about seeing it visually makes the progress feel real, in a way that numbers on a screen sometimes do not. Our brains respond to visual progress in a powerful way. Habit researchers have found that people who track their progress visually are far more likely to stick with their goals than people who just monitor numbers. The debt thermometer works. It sounds simple, but do not underestimate it. Use whatever tools actually keep you engaged and motivated. Now let us talk about something that can help you find the extra money to throw at debt. Most people assume they do not have anything extra, but when you actually sit down and look at your spending, you almost always find something. A subscription you forgot about. A habit that costs more than you realized. Small leaks in your budget. Even finding $30 or $40 extra a month to put toward your debt can make a meaningful difference over time. You do not need to go on an extreme budget. You do not need to stop living your life. You just need to find the waste and redirect it. Debt payoff does not require suffering. It requires awareness. One of the most common ways people find extra money is by looking at their subscriptions. Streaming services, apps, gym memberships they never use. Add them all up, and for a lot of people, it is well over $100 a month going toward things that are barely used. Cutting 2 or 3 can free up real money for debt. Food spending is another big one. Not just eating out, but grocery waste. Studies show that the average household throws away a significant percentage of the food they buy. Planning meals ahead, cutting down on last-minute takeout, and being intentional at the grocery store can free up $50 to $100 a month without feeling like a sacrifice. There is also the option of earning more rather than spending less. Picking up extra hours, a side gig, or selling things you no longer need can generate one-time or recurring income that goes straight toward debt. Even a few hundred extra dollars applied to a high-interest balance can noticeably accelerate your payoff timeline. Anytime you get a windfall, put it toward debt, tax refund, birthday money, work bonus. Instead of treating it as free spending money, treat it as an opportunity to make a real dent. A $500 lump sum payment on a credit card can do more good than 10 months of small extra payments combined. This is called a lump sum payment strategy, and it works because it immediately reduces the principal balance. Lower principal means lower interest charges next month, which means more of your regular payment goes to principal, which means the balance drops faster. One good lump sum creates a positive chain reaction that keeps paying off for months afterward. Let us also address something people worry about, which is whether paying off credit cards will hurt their credit score. The short answer is no. Paying down your balances is almost always good for your score. Lower utilization means a higher score. The only time closing accounts can hurt is if it dramatically reduces your available credit. So if you pay off a card, you do not have to close it necessarily. You can keep it open with a zero balance. That keeps your available credit high and your utilization low, which actually helps your score. Just make sure you are not tempted to start spending on it again. Some people cut the card up, but keep the account open. If you are dealing with debt that feels truly unmanageable, there are also nonprofit credit counseling agencies that can help you. They can negotiate lower interest rates with your creditors and set up a structured repayment plan. It is not bankruptcy. It is not a scam. It is a legitimate resource that millions of people have used to get out of debt. Bankruptcy is also a real option for some people in extreme situations, and while it carries a serious long-term impact on your credit, it is sometimes the right path. The point is, there are options beyond just grinding through minimum payments forever. You are not trapped even if it feels that way. There are real exits from this situation. But most people reading this are not in bankruptcy territory. Most people are in the more ordinary version of this trap. Manageable debt that just never seems to go away. That is entirely fixable with the right approach and the right information. And that is exactly what this is about, giving you the understanding to make smarter decisions. Let us revisit the core concept one more time because it is worth making sure it is completely clear. Every month you carry a balance, you are charged interest based on that balance. The minimum payment is designed to cover the interest and just a sliver of principal. So your debt shrinks painfully slowly while the bank collects month after month. The only way to break this cycle is to pay more than the minimum. It does not have to be a dramatic amount, but it has to be consistent. You have to commit to not letting the bank collect the maximum amount of interest from you. Every extra dollar you pay is a step toward the exit from this cycle. Here is a question worth sitting with. If you added up all the interest you have paid on credit cards over the last 5 years, what would that number be? For most people with ongoing balances, it is in the thousands, maybe well into the thousands. That money is gone. You cannot get it back, but you can stop sending more of it. The best time to change how you handle credit card debt was the first time you carried a balance. The second best time is right now. Not next month when things settle down. Not after the holidays. Now. Because every single month you wait, the bank collects another interest payment and your future self falls a little further behind. Something worth understanding is how credit card companies make money. They have two main revenue streams. The first is interchange fees, which are small percentages charged to merchants every time you swipe. The second and far more profitable one is interest. The interest business is enormously lucrative, and it runs entirely on people paying only the minimum. Credit card companies spend enormous amounts of money on marketing rewards programs and sign-up bonuses. They do this because the math works out in their favor. The customers who carry balances and pay interest generate so much profit that it more than covers the cost of rewards given to customers who pay in full. You are either the profit or the beneficiary. Think about which one you want to be. The customer who uses the card, earns the rewards, and pays it off every month, effectively getting free benefits. Or the customer whose interest payments are subsidizing those free benefits for everyone else. The difference between those two types of customers is almost entirely about one habit: paying in full versus carrying a balance. Rewards cards are worth having if you pay in full. Cashback miles and points are genuinely valuable. But the moment you carry a balance, the interest rate erases the value of any reward you earned. A 2% cashback card charges 20% interest. You would need to spend $10 to earn what you lose in interest on $1 of balance. This is why financial advisors often say that rewards credit cards are a great deal for disciplined spenders and a terrible deal for everyone else. The card is designed to look appealing. The rewards are the bait. And the minimum payment system is the mechanism that keeps people hooked without them fully understanding what they have gotten into. Let us talk about something called the psychology of small numbers, because it explains a lot about why people fall into this trap so easily. When you see a minimum payment of $35 on a $500 balance, 35 feels reasonable. It does not feel like a trap. It feels like a manageable obligation. And that feeling is exactly the problem. Humans are very bad at understanding the long-term cost of small recurring fees. We underestimate how much things add up over time. That is why subscription businesses thrive. That is why gym memberships sell so well in January. And that is why minimum payments feel fine in the moment, even when the long-term math is genuinely alarming. If the credit card statement showed you upfront that this balance will cost you an additional $1,800 in interest, if you pay the minimum, you would feel very differently. But that number is buried in a small box that most people skip past. The cost is hidden in plain sight, and the industry prefers it that way. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is just business. Banks are companies with shareholders. They are supposed to maximize profit, and their product happens to be one that benefits enormously from customer inertia. The less you engage with your statement, the more they make. Awareness and attention are your best weapons against this system. One practical habit that can help is setting a calendar reminder once a month to sit down and actually look at your credit card accounts. Not just to pay the minimum, but to look at the balance, the interest charged, and the payoff timeline. Making it a regular practice keeps you honest, and keeps the urgency alive. Another helpful habit is treating your credit card like a debit card mentally. Before you charge something, ask yourself if you have that money available right now to pay it off. If the answer is yes, you can charge it confidently. If the answer is no, you are about to borrow money at 20% interest. That reframe changes a lot of purchase decisions. Credit cards are not inherently bad tools. They offer real protection. Fraud liability is limited with credit cards in a way it is not with debit cards. They can help build credit history. The rewards can be genuinely valuable. But all of those benefits require using the card intentionally, not just reactively. The tool is only good if you are in control of it. Some people go through periods where they stop using credit cards entirely while they pay off debt. They switch to cash or debit for everything. This removes the temptation of charging more while trying to pay down what they already owe. It slows the accumulation and lets the payoff effort actually make visible progress. For a lot of people, this is the turning point. There is a powerful thing that happens when your credit card balance hits zero for the first time. It is not just a number changing on a screen. It is a genuinely different feeling. The weight lifts, options open up. The money that was going to interest is now yours to direct however you choose. That feeling is worth working toward. Once you are out of credit card debt, the goal is to stay out. That means building an emergency fund so that an unexpected expense does not immediately put you back in debt. Most financial experts recommend 3 to 6 months of expenses in a savings account. That buffer is what prevents the next car repair from becoming a new credit card balance. Without an emergency fund, people are one unexpected expense away from going right back into debt. The car breaks down, the medical bill arrives, the appliance dies, and without savings, the credit card goes back on and the cycle starts over. Building that safety net is as important as paying off the debt itself. They work together. Once you have both an emergency fund and no credit card debt, your financial picture starts to look very different. Now, every dollar of income that was going to interest and minimum payments is available for other things: investing, saving for a home, building real wealth. Debt payoff is not the end. It is the beginning of a completely different financial life. Let us put some numbers to that idea. If you were paying $200 a month in minimum payments across multiple cards, and you eliminate that debt, what happens if you redirect that $200 into investments? At a 7% average annual return over 20 years, that $200 a month grows to over $100,000. That is the real cost of staying in minimum payment mode. It is not just the interest you pay while you are in debt. It is the wealth you fail to build because the money is tied up in debt service. The opportunity cost of debt is enormous, and it is invisible to most people until they run the numbers. The difference between someone who spends their 30s paying minimum payments and someone who clears their debt and invests that same money can be hundreds of thousands of dollars by retirement. Same income, same amount of money, completely different outcomes. The variable is whether that money went to the bank in interest or to work building wealth. This is why financial literacy matters so much. It is not about being good at math. It is about understanding how the systems around you work and whether those systems are working for you or against you. The minimum payment system is working against you. Understanding that is the first step to changing the outcome. If you have kids or younger people in your life, one of the most valuable things you can pass on is an understanding of how credit card interest works. Not as a lecture, but as a real conversation about real numbers. The earlier someone understands the minimum payment trap, the less likely they are to spend years stuck inside it. Financial education is not widely taught in schools. Most people learn about credit cards by getting one and figuring it out as they go. And the companies providing the cards are not exactly rushing to explain how the interest math works against you. So the information has to come from somewhere else, from people who have been through it and understand it. If you are in your 20s and carrying credit card debt right now, you have the most valuable thing possible on your side, which is time. Getting out of debt in your 20s rather than your 30s or 40s changes your entire financial trajectory. The earlier you break the minimum payment habit, the more time your freed up money has to grow. If you are in your 40s or 50s and still dealing with this, the message is the same, but the urgency is higher. Every year still in debt is a year not building toward retirement. But it is never too late to change the math. Even eliminating high-interest debt in your 50s gives your money a chance to work harder in the years that remain. Debt is not a moral failing. It is not a sign that you are bad with money or irresponsible or lazy. Most people in credit card debt got there through some combination of low income, hard times, poor information, and a system that was designed to keep them there. Understanding that removes the shame and makes it easier to take clear, practical action. But understanding it is not enough on its own. You have to act. You have to look at the actual numbers. You have to decide how much extra you can pay. You have to set it up and follow through. Knowledge without action does not change anything. The minimum payment will keep collecting itself if you do not intervene. Here is the simplest possible version of what this whole thing comes down to. The minimum payment keeps you in debt on purpose. Paying more gets you out. The amount you pay above the minimum directly translates to time and money saved. There is no trick, no shortcut, and no complicated strategy required. Just more than the minimum every single month. Every dollar above the minimum is a direct attack on your balance. Every month you do it, the interest charge the following month is slightly lower. The cycle that was working against you starts to work in your favor. Slowly at first, then faster. Momentum builds. The balance starts to drop in a way you can actually feel and see. So the next time you log into your account and see that minimum payment amount sitting there waiting for you to click pay, think about what that number actually represents. It is not a finish line. It is a floor. The bank set it as low as they legally could to keep you paying interest as long as possible. You can choose to pay more. You did not get into debt overnight, and you will not get out overnight either. But every month you choose to pay more than the minimum, you are taking back control. You are shortening your sentence. You are keeping more of your own money, and you are building toward the day when the balance hits zero and all of that monthly payment becomes yours again.